Hello there. Hello and welcome to this catch up of the free coaching session, How to Quit Dieting and Feel the Best That You Have Ever Felt. Before I begin, I just want to give you a quick content warning that I'm going to be talking about diet culture, eating behaviors, and related topics in this session. So if any of that makes you feel uncomfortable at all, you are the master of your own self-care and well-being. Do give yourself full permission to drop out at any time. And if that is the case and you are curious about the content, you can always email me. My email address is in the center there, and I am more than happy to answer any of your questions at any time. Let me begin by introducing myself. Hello, everyone. It's so good to have you here. My name is Josie. I'm a food and eating psychology coach and founder of The Mindful Cook. I am also what is known as a non-diet practitioner, which means that I encourage women to focus on their health and well-being through the practice of positive lifestyle strategies like nutrition, mindset techniques, and movement, rather than dieting as a route to well-being. I decided to retrain in eating psychology coaching and applied nutrition about 6 years ago because I was really struggling with my own relationship with food. I refer to it as spinning around the revolving doors of weight loss clubs because that's really how it feels to be in a cyclical behavior with food and with dieting. And then I founded The Mindful Cook in 2017 to share what I learned about how to heal my own relationship with food with other women so that they could feel empowered to take back ownership of their health and to make positive changes in their relationship with food as well. In terms of what I offer, I run online courses. I have a flagship nutrition, mindset and movement program called the NonDiet Method. And pre-pandemic, I was running award-winning health and wellbeing retreats. And that's a picture of me with some of the ladies on the last one that I ran in 2019. I'm really hoping that it's not going to be too long to go before we can do things like that again. I just wanted to get a bit more relaxed because they were great fun. And I'm incredibly proud to say that in recent years, my work has been recognised in lots of publications, including Good Housekeeping and Grazia. In terms of the way that this session is going to run, my intention today is to challenge you to think differently about diet culture, the modern food environment, and your belief systems. So I'm going to be sharing some research and information with you up front. And then towards the end of the session, I'm going to be inviting you to have a bit of fun and to have a think about where you are in relation to 3 key themes that I'm going to talk about. And off the back of that, I'm going to be sharing some really actionable techniques that you can start using immediately to support you in feeling good. So I really do encourage you to be an active participant and learner. Grab a notebook and pen. Try to limit your distractions if you can. And obviously you're on the catch up today, so you won't be able to drop into the chat. But do please feel free to email me with any questions that you have, or just, you know, if you want to just have a chat about anything. I love to hear from people, so don't be shy. Do drop me a line. Let's begin by placing some focus on you. You are an amazing being. Despite how you might feel about yourself and your body, you are made up of trillions of tiny cells that are working really hard every day to keep you healthy and to keep you strong. And all of those cells make up what I call your internal environment. And that internal environment is interacting with stimulus in the external environment all the time. Those cells within your body and the transmitters within your brain are in constant interaction with the food that you eat, any stressors that might be present out there in the environment. Your respiratory system is interacting with the air quality. You know, you're this incredible living, breathing organism. that absorbs messages from the environment around you. Back in the days when we were roaming the fields and we were hunting and foraging for our food, that system regulated itself fairly well. And actually, if you think about our ancestors, the chimps, they regulate their internal environment quite well. And being overweight for them isn't really much of a problem. Their diet and lifestyle hasn't changed much over the years. But for us humans, it's quite a different story. We are far more advanced, aren't we? And there have been lots of evolutions and changes in our diet, in our lifestyle habits, in our education, and in our belief systems as well. All of that has an impact on that internal environment. When it comes to our food environment, over time, we have evolved from being foragers and hunter-gatherers to a very industrialized food environment. Food manufacturing is big business, driven by commercial objectives, and both business interests and politics have really come to inform many of our food standards. And all of that directly influences the food that's available to us and the food choices that we make as well. The truth is, we lead incredibly busy lives, and unless you've studied nutrition or you take a particular interest in food policy, it's really unlikely that you're going to question the food that's made available to you. So to start off, I'm going to talk you through a fairly recent example of how commercial objectives and politics have come to inform the food choices that we make and the knock-on effect that that has had on our diets and on our health as well. As with everything I'm going to talk to you about in this session today, don't just take my word for it. I really encourage you to go on and do your own research beyond this session to corroborate what I'm saying. And I do share some references throughout as I go through, so take a note if you want to and do go and check them out. In the 1950s, there was an increase in the incidence of heart disease in the US. And scientists began to think that there might be a relationship between heart disease and the food that we were eating. And two foods specifically came under investigation. Sugar was looked at and fat as well. And the US government commissioned several pieces of research to look into this to see if there was a correlation. One of the resulting papers from that research presented really quite compelling evidence of a relationship between fat and heart disease, and that is this little graph that I'm sharing with you here. You can see there's quite a distinct correlation there in those countries between the consumption of fat, dietary fats, and heart disease. What was later discovered is that the research itself had actually looked at 22 different countries, but a decision was made somewhere along the line only to publish the results from the countries that put fats firmly in the frame. Now, this is understandably quite an infamous study, and it's actually one of the first pieces of research that I learned about when I studied applied nutrition. And it's understood that when the sugar board came under threat, the people who are employed to defend the interests of the sugar industry really went to work. Unfortunately, as a result of this kind of cocktail of commercial objectives, politics, and public relations, this research came to inform food policy in the US. And in 1977, this report, which was called Dietary Goals for the United States, it's also known as the McGovern Report, that's why this slide is called the McGovern Report, was published. And it made a number of recommendations, and the most prominent of those recommendations was that we should cut back on saturated fats and cholesterol. How that report translated onto our supermarket shelves across the US and throughout the UK and Europe was that we began to replace natural saturated fats like butter and lard with things like vegetable oils, sunflower oils and margarines. Low-fat products were also introduced, and very often you find that low-fat products contain more sugar to make them taste better. And also our consumption of refined wheat products, so things like healthy cereal bars and cereal products and grains, the consumption of that stuff increased as well. This graph shows the increase in obesity rates across lots of different countries between 1970 and 2020. If we plot the McGovern report and when it was published against this graph, you can begin to see why changes in our diets made as a result of that publication have been considered as a possible contributing factor to an increase in weight in the population. Now, this is just one example of changes to our diets that have been documented as having a direct impact on our health. And in the preparation phase of my program, the NonDiet Method, I share some other really notable research and talk more in detail about how these things impact our bodies. In the same way as these wonderful bodies of ours respond to the food environment, your mind is responding to the messages that it draws from the environment as well. So a little analogy for you, if you imagine yourself like a computer, you could think about your brain as the software, maybe, and your body as the hardware. Your mind is constantly running programs that are made up from all the bits of information that we take from the external environment around us. These programs really are our thoughts and our belief systems, and those systems inform our behavior. So really the health of our hardware, our bodies, is dependent on the health of our software, the software and the thoughts programs that we're running. Now, a lot of our software might have been programmed with old or unhelpful information that might have been drawn from experiences in our childhood, for example, from the magazines that we've read when we were teenage girls, the images that you see on the TV and obviously now everywhere in social media, and the experiences that you've had in your life as well. And typically, all that information for women might contribute to beliefs like you need to be slim to be liked and accepted. You should prioritize your family and your domestic or household concerns over your self-care, maybe, or the way that you look is far more valuable than your health. Okay, all of these messages can create programming that can end up making us feel like we're not good enough or we need to be fixed, rather than telling us how precious and worthy of care we are. And the thing is, if you're running programming like this, it's likely that you will be stuck in patterns of behavior that perpetuate those belief systems, which is very often why we find ourselves stuck in patterns of behavior like dieting or other behaviors that aren't really showing care towards ourselves, thinking we need to be fixed. We're trying to put it right like this all the time. I'm going to talk in more detail about dieting, but I want you to bear in mind as we go through that the diet industry is very much fueled by the same objectives as the food manufacturing industry. They want you to keep running these programs that tell you that you need to be fixed so that they can make money. If you think about it, there's a reason why so many of these diet clubs offer lifetime memberships. And there's a very, very real reason why many of us get stuck in those revolving doors. I'm going to share some statistics with you just quickly about weight loss diets that represent how effective they are at helping us to lose weight. So in 2019, there was an examination of data from a number of other research studies that were all looking at how effective are weight loss diets at helping individuals to maintain weight loss in the long term. So you might lose 6 pounds initially, but how good are they really at helping you to keep that weight off? What that study found is that more than 80% of people who tried weight loss diets actually ended up regaining the weight within 5 years. So less than 20% of people succeeded at long-term weight loss. It's not a lot of people, is it? Possibly one of the most interesting and relevant research studies to what I'm going to talk to you about today was one that happened in 2016. And this piece of research looked at what happened to the contestants of a TV program called The Biggest Loser. You might have heard of this program. I think it was broadcast here in the UK. It was certainly broadcast in the US and in Australia. And the program basically took a group of people who were considered to be clinically obese, put them on low-calorie restrictive diets, and coupled that with a program of really high-intensity exercise, and saw what happened. And essentially, the outcome was that they all experienced a significant weight loss at the start. And at the start of the program, each of them were burning around 2,600 calories a day, yeah? By the end of the program, that calorie burn had dropped to 2,000 calories per day. So that basically meant that their metabolic rate, in other words, the number of calories that their bodies were able to burn throughout the day, reduced by an average of 500 to 600 calories per day. What those contestants experienced is now understood as metabolic adaption. And this is the first piece of evidence that I'm going to share with you, explaining why diets are really, really not that good at helping us to lose weight, keep it off, or feel good about ourselves generally. As I mentioned at the start, despite all that programming, despite all that stuff that goes on in your head, your body is an amazing thing. There's an incredibly complex interaction between your brain, your hormones, that is constantly going on in the background. And it's working to keep you healthy, to keep you safe, and a stable weight. And that stable weight is often referred to as the weight set point. You might have heard about it. There's enough scientific evidence around now to suggest that your metabolism adjusts according to how much energy is being made available to it. So how much food you're eating, essentially. When you overeat, it speeds up your metabolism. The sympathetic nervous system kicks in. This is why if you've ever had, enjoyed that massive Christmas meal, you might have experienced like an increase in your heart rate afterwards, or food sweats after. That's essentially your sympathetic nervous system activating to help you use up the energy from that food. And in the same way, your metabolism slows down to preserve energy and avoid starvation when you restrict food or when you go on a really low calorie diet. This is also often why dieters will experience a really quick and big amount of weight loss at the start of a diet program, and which eventually kind of slows down. That's essentially your metabolism adjusting, getting used to the amount of energy that's being made available to it. What we're learning is that if we continue to diet cycle by restricting foods and then returning to normal eating patterns, the body compensates by adjusting your resting metabolic rate. And a really, really important takeout from this is the more that that pendulum swings between undereating and overeating and, you know, returning to some kind of normal eating, your metabolism drops over time and that weight set point slowly increases. Now, this is also another reason why some persistent dieters end up with a heavier set point than when they started. And I certainly encountered that throughout my many years of dieting. All is not lost though, you can adjust it, and we'll talk about that. Another issue with weight loss diets, so this is the second piece of evidence that I'm going to give you as to why diets aren't that helpful for us, is that the nutritional advice is often really flawed. So I'm just going to take calories as an example, okay? So thinking about this idea, this fact that you are this amazing, living, breathing organism, 500 calories of biscuits and crisps is going to have a very different effect on your hormones, your blood sugars, and your organs than say 500 calories of fish, vegetables or fruit will. And as we've just learned, everybody's metabolic rate is different. So I'm going to burn and use that energy probably quite differently to the way that you will. Likewise, the notion that fats are fattening, as we have also just learned, really isn't true. Your brain is 60% fat. Yeah, essential fatty acids are absolutely essential for our health, particularly for women and our hormonal health as well. It's the type of fats that we consume that matter. And this emergence of low-fat products as a result of rigged nutritional research that we've just seen has also increased the amount of sugar in our diet. So this is something that you can go out and have a look at tomorrow. A really good little learning curve for you is to perhaps go out and have a look at the sugar in a full-fat product compared to a low-fat product. So check out the carbohydrate of rich sugars in, say, a low-fat yogurt compared to a full-fat yogurt. And you are probably going to find that the low-fat yogurt is higher in sugar than the full-fat alternative. You might be surprised. And finally, and this is a really big one, diets address the symptoms and not the cause. When your mind is set in those old programs, thinking, you know, I'm not good enough, I need to be fixed with restrictive diets, it creates stress in your relationship with food. And rather than seeing food as a way to nourish yourself and care for yourself, you might see food perhaps as an enemy, or, you know, as a way to maybe punish yourself by overeating or making food choices that aren't that nutritious. And as long as we remain stuck in these thoughts and belief systems that we're not worthy of honouring our health through food, and we don't have time for self-care, that's another big one. Don't have time, just don't have time to, you know, meal plan or go for a walk or whatever. Then really trying to stick to any kind of healthy habits is going to be incredibly difficult. Dieting reinforces these beliefs and programs by teaching us that we can't be trusted around food, you know, that you need to follow rules, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't encourage us to be more loving towards ourselves. It doesn't encourage us to get back to our intuitive eating patterns. If you think about it, you never had a problem regulating your hunger and what you were taking on board as food when you were a child. You know, all this stuff is learned, which creates stress and unhappiness in our relationship with food and with our bodies as well. So if any of this is resonating with you, then this is just a gentle nudge. I think the modern food environment, weight loss diets, and patterns of thinking that aren't really serving us are causing us to feel tired, to gain weight, and have an unhappy, unhealthy relationship with food in our bodies. The truth is, your health and well-being are your greatest asset, not your looks or your weight. And weight loss, if that is what you want, is a side effect of you making a choice and commitment to care for yourself through what you eat and how you behave. So the big question is, are you willing to do what you've not done before to get a different result? Big question, right? You might be thinking, yeah, I am. I'm happy to give up diets. I want to do it now. Tell me, what's the solution? But I want to be real with you, because resisting diet culture and deciding to commit time truly to your self-care takes effort, and it takes time. If you think about how long it took you to create the habits and the belief systems that you've got going on now, I'm not suggesting it's going to take a lifetime to unlearn that stuff, but it does take time. Diet culture very much teaches us to want quick wins and immediate results, but the reality is retraining your brain and getting some really good new behaviors on board does take time, and it takes effort, it takes commitment. And I don't mean just, you know, the effort associated to changing the way that you shop or reducing the amount of sugar that you eat. It's about being prepared to experience discomfort, the discomfort of dealing with some of your old programming, learning how to tell that inner critic to go away gently, and changing the way that you think about prioritizing your self-care. But it's worth it, yes. My little addition to that slide. It sure is worth it, it really is. So this is the part in this coaching session where I'm inviting you to get involved. So get your pen and paper at the ready. The way I think about it is that diet culture has really stolen the joy from things like eating a nutritious diet, moving your body, all that kind of stuff. So over the next 5 minutes, I'm going to invite you to think about your mindset, nutrition and movement, and think about where you are with those things. And I'm going to provide you with some inspiration, hopefully, to how you might approach them and make them a bit more fun and enjoyable, essentially. So let's begin by thinking about mindset. Showing care towards yourself through the food that you choose to eat and moving your body in ways that make you feel good, honestly becomes so much easier when you recognize that you're worthy of that self-care. And working towards changing your inner dialogue and the way that you talk to yourself is a really key skill to learn here. So my first line of very gentle inquiry is to ask you to have a think about, how good are you at speaking to yourself with a kind voice? So draw a scale on your piece of paper, 1 being not so good. Yeah, maybe you tell yourself off quite a lot, maybe you berate yourself quite a bit, to 5, which is, yeah, great, I'm really good at kind of taming that inner critic and being nice to myself. How good are you at speaking to yourself with a kind voice? If this is something that you would like to place some gentle focus on over the coming weeks, a really simple thing to do is to become more aware of that inner language and self-talk. The words that you speak to yourself really do create your reality. Just think about some of the derogatory words that diet culture encourages us to use about our bodies, okay? Fight the flab, beat the bulge. All of that stuff is so horrible, really, and it really sets us up against our own flesh. And actually, they do the same thing with food as well. Yeah, so clean and dirty. Food isn't clean or dirty, food is just food. I remember the ads for cakes. This is showing my age somewhat, but you know, naughty but nice. Cakes aren't naughty, they're actually quite enjoyable, and they're just food. All of this stuff is creeping into our inner dialogue, and it's essentially diet culture. It's just diet culture permeating our thinking. Big words for you to look out for in your mind are things like must and should. So I should go for that one today. I really should add more veg to my meals, or I really should make that choice not to eat that donut today. This type of language places huge pressure on yourself to perform. And actually, if you don't manage to get out for that run, or you don't fulfill your objective of eating more vegetables that week, or whatever it is, it can end up being a stick that you beat yourself with if you don't do it. So a really, really good thing to do immediately that will make a huge difference to this is to change your shoulds to could. I could go for a run today. I could actually make a choice to have something different for my dinner. You will notice that it immediately makes a huge, huge difference to the dynamics of those words. So that's something you can try if you want to work on your self-talk. When it comes to eating nutritious food, we really have been sold the idea that healthy eating is a route to intentional weight loss, or, you know, another way to manage our appearance, rather than actually engaging with the role it plays and the value it has in energizing you and helping you to feel good, feeding those lovely cells of yours. When you think about healthy eating, you might think about these things that we've talked about: low fat, you know, low calorie, rules and restriction. And as you are hopefully gathering from this session, we've been sold an awful lot of stories about which foods are good and which are bad. And more often than not, they are in the commercial interests of the food and diet industry and not in our interests. I often think, how good would it feel to start seeing food as a tool of self-care, as a way to look after yourself? So, drawing your scale again, scale number 2, with 1 being not so good and 5 being you're pretty good at this. Just be gently inquiring with yourself and ask, how good are you at nourishing yourself with nutritious food? So you could think about, you know, how much variety you have in your diet, how much whole food you eat, how well you manage to balance the food groups. Do you even know, you know, what the food groups are? That kind of thing. The truth is, healthy eating is certainly not restrictive, and it doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be expensive. You know, these are all things I hear. It's none of that, and it certainly doesn't involve calorie counting. I think it's probably important to say that there is no one way of eating that is going to result in optimum health and weight loss for everybody. We are all very different. And what works best for you is going to depend on lots of different factors, including whether you have any underlying health conditions, how well you sleep, how stressed you are, whether, you know, your access to foods and your ability to plan and all that kind of stuff. But there are some very key nutritional skills and knowledge that will help you to regulate your blood sugars, to support your hormonal health, and to promote a healthy metabolism as well. And I teach all of these things in detail in the NonDiet Method. But for now, a really, really good starting point for you is to think about food quality over quantity and look for opportunities to add extra nutrients to the food that you already eat. So a really, really simple thing that you can do to increase the nourishment that you get from your food is to add extra ingredients. I always think add, don't take away is a really kind of good mantra to live by. So add a few berries to your breakfast. Add fresh green veg like spinach is such a good versatile thing to add to curries or pasta. Add pulses like kidney beans or chickpeas to your curries or casseroles are a really good thing to do. Oldie but goodie, but colour. Having more colour on your plate means that you are going to have a wider breadth of nutrients going into your system. And also, if you're a meat eater, maybe think about swapping out half your mince, for example, with lentils. Lentils add a huge amount of dietary fiber, micronutrients, and they really help you to feel full. So this is a really good, simple technique that you can start doing straight away. And finally, movement. Very much in the same way as healthy eating. Exercise, or moving your body, as I prefer to call it, has really been positioned by the fitness industry as something that we need to do to get rid of calories or to correct our overeating. You know, I had that cake, I'll just stick an extra 5k onto my walk today. You know, we are so encouraged to place focus on the external outcomes of movement practice rather than thinking about how good it is for our well-being and the myriad other benefits it has to our health. Moving your body in a way that you enjoy, and this is absolutely key, is a really great way to reduce stress. By reducing your stress levels, you are reducing levels of the hormone cortisol in your body, which has implications on your well-being and on your weight. And movement, of course, is strongly linked to enhanced mental health. We spend an awful lot of time up here thinking, overthinking mostly. So movement is a really, really good way to shift your attention out of here and into your body. So for the last time, your last scale, thinking about movement, 1 and 5, and reflecting on your own experiences. Think about how good you are at making time for movement that you really enjoy. So this is about doing stuff that brings you emotional reward, that lights you up a bit, you know, that produces those feel-good endorphins. So if moving your body in a way that's enjoyable to you is something that you'd like to place gentle focus on, a really good way to reframe your thinking beyond the kind of the typical gym and running and stuff like that is to engage with the fun aspects of it. What stuff did you enjoy doing as a child, for example? What activities make you smile? Is it rock climbing? Is it roller skating? That was one that one of the girls in the NonDiet Method community came up with the other day, and I thought it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. You know, dancing, you know, for me, jumping around the garden to make some silly Instagram video, you know, is it climbing trees for you? Is it swimming? Is it dancing? What movement really, really fires you up? That's the way to do the stuff that's going to be so much more beneficial for you. So there are 3 themes, and you should now have 3 scales written down on your notepad, hopefully. Perhaps something stands out to you from your scales, you know, perhaps it doesn't, but if it does, maybe just decide to place a little bit of gentle focus on that over the coming weeks. I always think just pick out one thing to avoid overwhelm. And honestly, gentle focus and small steps is really all it requires for you to make huge changes to your sense of well-being. So write those things down and make it maybe something that you focus on over the coming weeks. So to summarize, what does it take to quit dieting and feel the best that you've ever felt? I would say get the knowledge on how to eat in a way that promotes hormonal health, that gets your blood sugar levels nice and balanced, that gets you away from focusing on calories and promotes instead strong metabolic health. Practice compassionate mindset skills. That really is a massive thing. And learn to treat your body to movement that you enjoy every now and again. And then practice it. Get good at applying that knowledge consistently. Find what feels good. My favorite yoga woman, Adrian, says that. Find what feels good for you. Take that knowledge and make it work for you. And doing that stuff will really help you to build trust in yourself, that you can make really good food and lifestyle decisions without dieting that honor your health and make you feel good. And as I've said, this process does take time. So many of us are in such a rush, aren't we? But the reality is creating a sustainable way to care for yourself teaches you important lessons. And those lessons are worth having, you know, how to build trust in yourself and discover the strong and healthy woman that you really, truly are. And if you do that stuff, you will absolutely get results. You will start to feel more energized. You will feel stronger. You will feel fitter. And if you desire to lose weight, you will no doubt lose weight as well. So I really hope that that's been useful to you. And if you want to take it further, I think I can help. My opinion is that I think we are being called upon to step up and care for ourselves so much more now than ever. The increase in things like type 2 diabetes, low immunity, tiredness, and being overweight to a certain extent really are all symptoms of metabolic dysfunction. And dieting, I hope I have proven to you today, is not the answer to that. The NonDiet Method is an 8-week nutrition, mindset and movement program for women that focuses on improving your metabolic health. It's what I would call the complete antidote to dieting. Through the program, I teach you some very simple but very effective nutrition that's designed to help to fuel your metabolism and to lower inflammation in the body. And keep your hormones happy as well. We work on your mindset skills so that you stop sabotaging your efforts at self-care. And I encourage you to take joy from the things that are going to help you to feel stronger, fitter, and more body confident. The truth is, no one wants to be on and off diets for a lifetime. What you really want is to discover a sustainable pattern of self-care. And the truth is, as I've said, it takes time, but it is absolutely possible. It's absolutely possible. The program is an 8-week-long program, and it is phased over 4 phases over 8 weeks, essentially. And each of those phases, as you can see here, builds on the last. And it makes recommendations for diet, so nutrition, mindset, and movement practices. So you essentially have a full self-care plan for an 8-week period. We kick off with a preparation week where there's a little bit of learning to do, there's some mindset stuff to do to get you focused and fired up for what's to come. You get to prepare your environment for the exciting changes that are ahead, and you get access to the first phase so you can take a look at the recipes and things like that. Oh, and I introduce you to the community as well. The first phase is called Rest and Reset, and that is because it focuses on gently resetting your metabolism using nutrition that will lower your refined carbohydrate intake and address your blood sugars. And it also looks to increase the nutrient density of your diet as well. And there is also a series of recommended low to medium intensity movement practices to support you whilst you're making these dietary changes. Now, if you have a regular movement practice in place, which a lot of us do, it's absolutely fine. You can either kind of build some of this in or just take some of the principles from it and use that, bear it in mind when you're doing whatever it is that you do to feel good. And in terms of the mindset techniques, I introduce you to and start showing you how that programming and how those emotions can feed your self-saboteur and exactly what you've got to do to deal with it. Phase 2 is called Strengthen and Build because it builds on that learning and it focuses on reducing inflammation within your body and building strength. So the nutrition supports you in addressing your fatty acid balance, what we were talking about earlier, reducing inflammatory fats in your diet. There is a bespoke strength program in this that is run by a gorgeous personal trainer called Holly, who I work with. And that's designed to help you to build lean muscle, to strengthen your bones, all that stuff that is really, really key and important to female health. And we continue with the mindset work. We go deeper and we also look at things like sleep and stress. And then the program closes with a final week called Thrive, because we check in and we make sure that you've got everything locked in so that you can keep going with it, so that you don't have to diet anymore. That's the point. We want a sustainable approach to healthcare, and that means having cake sometimes as well. So there are no diets here. When you enroll, You get access to 2 member spaces. This is the program space. I love it. It looks really lovely. And there's lots and lots of good stuff in there. So there are video tutorials, which include lessons with me and also the movement sessions with the movement specialists that I work with. There are guides for each phase, which come in the form of downloadable PDFs. So you get food principles, you know, shopping and food ingredients for each phase. There are lots of other helpful guides in there as well, like a store cupboard and shopping guide. And there is a library of over 100 recipes that I have lovingly created to fit with the principles of the course and that you will thoroughly enjoy. And majority of them now have all been tested out, certainly by me, but by the existing members at the moment. And you will also get access to this gorgeous member community. So the member community is really the living, breathing aspect of the program. It's the support network, really, where we chat, we hang out. You have access to me and fellow members around the clock. So this is where you come for support, it's where you come to ask any questions that you have. And the truth is, some people interact more than others. You don't have to interact in here, but I kind of think it's a place where you get out what you put in, really. So it's definitely a really great place to be and full of positive, like-minded women. Throughout the course, we also have a program of live events. So there are 2 cook-alongs in the 8-week period. That's me at the Christmas one with my daily box on. The kitchen sessions are really fun and informative sessions. So you cook along with me in your kitchen, you pick up some tips and ideas. And we also have 6 live Q&A sessions throughout the period as well, where I answer your questions and coach you on whatever topics come up, what you need. Through these sessions, really, that's where you get the opportunity for individual support from me, and they're about half an hour and they happen every other week around the cook-alongs. Last September, I trialled this program with 22 women. Of those 22 women, 19 actually completed it because life gets in the way, right? That's what happens. And of those 19, 16 have stayed in the ongoing membership. And I think those numbers speak for themselves. And this is just some of the amazing feedback that I have had from those ladies. Also, if you want to check out the real people chatting, there are some video testimonials on the page for the NonDiet Method, which you'll find on my website.
If you like the sound of all that and you want to join me, what you need to know is that we are starting again on February the 2nd, and doors are open now for enrollment. Now, when I surveyed the women who trialled the program last year, the majority of them valued it between £300 and £450. I appreciate, however, that we are post-pandemic, it's January, and also I want to be able to share this program with as many women as possible because I know it is life-changing what you're going to get from this. So you can sign up for a one-time payment of just £290 or 2 installments of £145, and those installments come out. One comes out when you initially sign up, and then the following one comes out a month later. I also have a refund policy, so check out the frequently asked questions on my website and you will find the details of the refund policy as well. You really are in safe hands with this program.
I really, really hope that you have taken some value from this session. If you have any questions for me at all about any of the content or about the program or just about what I do, you can contact me on this email address. I would absolutely love to hear from you. That's it. Thank you so much. If you're still here listening, I really, really appreciate you being here. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from you. See you later. Bye.